Evening and welcome to show number 1 of the 2025-2026 EFL regular season. Are we optimistic? Are we pessimistic? Are we just going to take it as it comes? What does the season hold in store for us? Our first under the head coach stewardship of Martin Patterson, who we had on the show last week. Intense, I think, is a word that we will be using fairly often this season. What do we think of Martin's arrival? What do we think he's going to do? Do we think it's going to be same as last season, or do you think there could actually be some quite wholesale changes in our style and in our approach? Those of us who were there on Saturday would have seen Notts in action against Cardiff. Debuts of Kel Roos in goal. Stell knows him from days at Derby a few seasons ago. First look at Ollie Norburn, and his first touch was a yellow card. There we go. Those of you who wanted a bit of combative steel in the middle of the park, I think Ollie announced his intentions in the opening 60 seconds of his debut on Saturday. Your thoughts, as always, on the show. Thank you to our partners. Delighted to say that the Big Shed, Trent Navigation and JH Accountants are both with us again for this coming season. So thank you to them for their support. And we'll be drawing tonight the winner of our away shirt competition, courtesy of JH Accountants. That's to come later in the programme. Everybody who is a subscriber, it's free to this channel, is in the draw. We'll be announcing that a little bit later in the programme. Lots clearly to get through. Your thoughts, tips for promotion, automatics, playoffs and relegation. Stell's already had a go at mine. I just shared mine before as being very safe. Okay. Let us know your thoughts. Welcome to one and all. Let's start with Chloe, because you were at the game Saturday. So on the evidence of that 90 minutes, are you more positive, less positive, middle of the road?
I think the second half got me excited for the season. First half, I thought we competed well in a team, granted, that have got relegated last year, but are still the league above what we are. And I imagine going for promotion themselves. And then I really thought we stepped into gear second half, got to see a couple of the new faces. It's the first time I've been to any of the preseason games this season so far. So it was nice to see. Maybe a couple of question marks still in there. But obviously the window's open for quite a while into the season starting. So I'm expecting maybe another couple of bodies, but I think I'm pleasantly surprised, especially, like I say, by the second half.
Okay, yeah, it's certainly entertaining. I have to say, I mean, I've done all the pre-season that we've been allowed to go to. And I've got to say, it's not necessarily been a normal pre-season, really, for a variety of reasons. Goals, tackles, combative nature of the games. Yeah, there's been a bit of an edge to it, I think, throughout. Stell, you've been around the block many times. You don't bother too much with pre-season. Now that you're an opening bat, or maybe even when you was a player, I think you was possibly of an era when you just got through it, didn't you? And then worried about the number of goals you score in the competitive league fixtures.
Absolutely, I absolutely was like that. I mean, pre-season was an absolute nightmare for me when you sort of the lack of natural athleticism that I had and still maintain. Yeah, pre-season was just a nightmare. You don't. You know, the thing to stress is that the players aren't preparing for the games in pre-season. Yes. You know, the games are coming sort of in between and used as exercises, extra training sessions in between their physical sessions. Now, I know things are more scientific now. It's not just, you know, run players like they're, you know, flogging horses sort of thing. But they're still doing their physical work. They are not preparing for games like they would or like they will do this week for Newport. Everything's going to be geared to that on Saturday. They wouldn't have worked last week gearing up towards Cardiff. They'd have known the game was there. Yes, they might have just slightly tailored it towards the Friday, but it was nowhere near. You never get the same sort of preparation for a pre-season friendly that you do for a league game. So, like I say, you use it for players getting like little links with players, getting to know their teammates, things like that. But in terms of performance levels, I'd like to think that this is now the bit. This is now all eyes on Saturday, Newport away, and the idea is go down there and get all 3 points. So no, I don't put too much store in pre-season games, and also I don't want to go and see pre-season games and sort of get clouded judgment on players when, in games that don't really matter. It is about what happens when things are on the line. When 3 points are on the line, up for stakes, that's what matters. So I'll be judging players on what I see then. And like I say, I've done pre-season remotely via your blogs and reports back. So I've kept in touch with it.
How many runs did you get Saturday, by the way?
Not many. Like I say, that could have been my last cricket match. My eyes are going, my body's going. So technically that could be the last time I play. But so I was going to enjoy that if I could. But no, we won. We won the game, so that's all that matters. I didn't make many, but we won. But no, it's now on to football. So that was my last chance to sort of wield the willow, and now it's full steam ahead in terms of knots.
Okay, well done to Robert Minister joining us from Australia, where it's good morning. I'm looking forward to the weekend and kicking off the season with a win. Any news on whether we are signing the trialist from the weekend, Keenan Bennett? We'll come on to him in a minute. I thought from the moment we saw him for albeit 25 minutes, I thought there'd be quite a bit of debate about him as to whether we would sign him or not. Richard Elvian thought we'd have heard something on new signings by now. Of course, there's a vacant number 9 number to be allocated, isn't there? I think the last person had that was Macaulay Langstaff. Adam Kent, evening from Newark. Great to see a strong team performance on Saturday and the positivity on social media since. Barry Cotter continues to impress. Just need our new strikers to start firing. Evening all, show regular Jurgen Halligan thought Cardiff left me with a bit of optimism. Hopefully a number 9 coming in this week. Thought Roos in goal looked a little nervous and distribution a little shaky. Evening from Tim Watchorn. What an improvement on Saturday. Keenan Bennett, is a must signing. I enjoyed the game, says Royston. A couple more signings and we're good to go. Evening from Graham Oates. George Hilton says, after the Cardiff game, I felt optimistic if we obtain 1 or 2 new signings from the couple of trialists. Trialists look good on the left, says Adam Kent. Hello from Karen Knight, from Stephen Newton, from Paul Huskisson. S.E. Kent says, I missed Cotter's goal as I was watching Patterson, so animated in the dugout. Going to do some good for us, I feel. Evening from Ian Hayward and from Pythagorean. Keith Cook, I agree with all the previous comments regards Cardiff. I was particularly impressed with Iapenda. His movement off the ball was good and he made a nuisance of himself all game. I think we've had some of the Iapenda clan joining us on our subscriber base. There is a lady and a gentleman with the surname Iapenda who have subscribed. I'm guessing they might want to win a free shirt anyway. Will Hart, evening one and all. I was pleasantly surprised on Saturday after being underwhelmed previously this season. This Saturday will be a really good test to see what we are about. Gazza Lee, have a great circle tonight. I'm on the A43 heading past Silverstone back from Guildford and won't be on tonight. See you at Newport. Evening from Kay. Shane Walker, Solent Magpie is on the line. Richard Terry, closer to home in Woodborough. After Saturday's run out, the physicality of the new players bodes well for the season ahead. The trialist looked good. Let's see what happens. Decent game on Saturday, says Ian. Cardiff knew they had been in a game, that's for sure. Still need a goal scoring forward, in my opinion. I think we'll get a couple of new players in before Saturday, says Kay. And the list goes on. We'll come back to that. Chloe, you were there Saturday. Let's just it's a talking point. So the trialist, who we believe to be Keenan Bennett, we all take photos, don't we? And then we have I have a little group around me, and they're all straight on the iPhones, Wikipedia, looking who is, and so we believe it's the club don't confirm or deny Keenan Bennett. So Keenan, 26 years old. Played in the Bundesliga. Not had many players played in the Bundesliga. He was with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Born in London, holds dual nationality. Played for both Germany and for England age group teams. There's some debate as to Andy Edwards would have known about him through the National Football Centre at Lilleshall, which is where there is a possible link. Strong, athletic. What I've noticed this season, we've had quite a few trialists, and I think Martin is very much his own man. We don't seem to have signed many of them. Of the trialists, I think he's probably looked as good as any, but you're only seeing him on 30 minutes. And we have got a few wing backs. I mean, what are your thoughts on Keenan?
Like you say, it's hard to go on from 25 minutes. But obviously what we saw from him was really positive. I think he brings an element of pace that we've lacked. So that was nice to see. Put a good couple of crosses in. I thought the weight of his passes were really good. He played that Io Pender in, who then got a free kick on the edge of the box. It was all positive. Like I say, we can only judge him on what we've seen. However, there isn't really a better game to show off than in a game against Cardiff, who are the league above us. It should be as fit as possible, really, with only a week out for the start of the season. But I believe he's been on trial. I think somebody said he'd been on trial at Orient over this summer. I don't know how true that is. But it's interesting, isn't it, to see how he's ended up kind of on trial with us only a week out. But I think from, like I say, all positive. I'm sure Patterson and the recruitment team will make their own decisions on whether it's somebody that we need to have in the team and whether it's a position that needs to be covered. I do think we are a bit short squad-wise just because we've still got a couple of injuries. So it'll be interesting to see if he is one that we do pick up. But like I say, all positive, and I do think it's that element of pace that we've lacked really since Aaron Leman went.
Nathan Chambers says, do we think that Jody Jones is going to be playing in a more central position like he did on Saturday? Has he got what he's required of a number 10? It's an interesting point. He's clearly, one of the best operators in League Two. I guess it's a debatable point as to where we would think we get the most out of him. Where was Traore Saturday, says Andy Wold. Not sure whether he was carrying a slight knock or not. Believe he was at the game, but interesting that he wasn't involved in the 16. Rob Simmons, anyone notice that Josh Martin is available? Don't think we should have let him go when we did. Decent squad player. Colin Metcalf, I'm going into this season confused, uninspired by our transfer activity, but encouraged by reports I've read. Starting to get the excited new season feeling, though. Pythagorean, would not be surprised if Martin has told some players to look for new clubs. Evening from Duncan Comrie. AD Clark, evening up. It's been a while since I've gone into a season with zero expectations. When Crowley left, there was a void of quality and experience. With Didsey too, this season feels it's an even bigger void. Evening all from Dale Pikett. I think we will bulldozer teams next season with the new height and strength in the team. And AD says, good to see Chloe back talking sense and not the usual drivel from Paul. I've added the last bit, but he clearly thinks that. Ian Cooksey, he's done the promotion tips, which try and hold off on them a bit. We'll do them a bit later in the programme. Cooksey's promotion tips: Bristol Rovers, Chesterfield and MK Dons. I went with two of those three. Through the playoffs, Swindon, I had them in the top 7. Relegation, Accrington and Newport. I had Accrington. I didn't want to say Newport in case any of their lot are watching this and decide to take it out on us on the opening day of the season. Good run out on Saturday, says Paul Cuthbert. Certainly highlighted how much we will miss Jatta. Concerned about where the goals will come from, but Cotter's goal was a blinder and he could certainly contribute a few. Duncan Comrie, Patterson looked like he's going to push the squad. Just hope he doesn't overdo it. Bennett's looked good, says Crispy, but seemed like he was blowing hard at the end of the game. Not sure his fitness is at the right level currently. Great to be back to Meadow Lane, says Lippy Jane. Did you see Patterson pick up JJ and throw him back onto the pitch? Evening from a very miserable Greza Maxwell, he says, laid up with a partially lacerated sciatic nerve. Oh dear me. I've taken so many painkillers that every time I cough, it sounds like I'm rattling like a tube of Smarties. Well, get well soon. Stel, right. So we had MP, Martin Patterson, whatever we want to call him, one-off show last week. Very good, very intense. What do you make of him?
Well, like I say, intense seems to be his middle name, doesn't it? It's the watchword that everybody's sort of spoken about since. I don't think he pulls any punches. I think he's almost, I'm not saying he's a throwback, but he very much reminds me of sort of managers of years gone by that would, call a spade, let you know if you're not performing, obviously give you a bit of praise if you were, but then still push you, never be satisfied, never settle. So again, that intensity is great if the players take to it. It's about getting that response, that chemistry between your manager, your head coach, and the players. You can be intense as you like, and we can look at previous managers. I think Luke Williams was fairly intense, wasn't he? Obviously, had a little bit of another side to him, but very intense in the way he worked, very serious, very focused. Stuart Maynard was a little bit, still focused, but a little bit more, say, laid back, but didn't come across as quite as in the zone, if you like, quite as intense. And now we're going to Martin, who does seem particularly focused on the job and making sure that, players know what's expected of them, and he's not going to take anything less. Now, again, he's got that playing career behind him, that football career that players will automatically respect. So that buys a bit of respect as well, alongside Andy Edwards and Sam Slocum. So we hope that goes well. But again, it comes down to, it's all well and good doing pre-season. It comes down to when it matters. It comes down to that response then. Saturday matters. How do the players respond then when they go out? Can they perform? And then, that sort of flip-flop between players performing, going in at half-time, receiving the words that they're going to say, the reaction, responding again in the second half, and then post-match, the analysis, and then working in the week. So, look, there's a massive dynamic between a squad of players and the coaching staff, head coach, manager particularly. I think Martin's got a real steely, gritty side to him, and I don't think he's going to take players putting in less than 100%. And I think to go back to what somebody commented already, I think he probably alluded to it himself, hasn't he? I think he probably has had conversations with a few that, he said he was unconvinced by, and they'd not performed. That to me says he's ready to get a few out the door to bring a few more in. So I think the wheeling and dealing might go on, after the season starts. But I got the impression he is, I'm not saying not happy, not 100% with where the squad's at. I got the impression that he's quite a way away from happy with where the squad is at this moment, as we sit here now, sort of a week before the start of the season. So I think there's a bit of wheeling and dealing to be done from Notts, and again, we'll watch that space. But again, they've got to be right for this Saturday. But he impressed me, from what I've heard of his post-match interviews and the bits I've I heard of him throughout pre-season. I don't think he's a man to be messed with. I don't think he's. Yeah, of course there'll be lighter moments and lighter times on the training ground and that, but I think he'll keep standards high, and then it's whether players can perform and deliver.
Yeah, I did bottle the asking him about his lucky likeness with Ant Middleton from the SAS Who Dares Wins. I took a strategic withdrawal from asking him that, although I did ask him, but to kind of bring it out as we would kind of know how it would work, that, you are picking the team, Martin, you are choosing the tactics. And he looked at me, didn't he? And he, I find it funny you would ask me that. It's like death stare started to come out.
But that's part of a footballer's ego, Paul. A footballer and now manager, head coach. You have got to have absolute strength of character, strength of will, strength of mind to believe that what you're doing is right. And I know he said, I'm not always right. I'm still ready to learn. That's absolutely right. But at the bottom line, you've got to believe what you're doing, because it's your neck on the block and you've got to make decisions. And people will sense if you've got an air of uncertainty about you. So as a leader, you've got to be strong. You've got to show that strength. And you hope that people step in line and shoulder to shoulder and go with you. And I think on that aspect, he knows his mind. Yes, between a Monday and a Friday and whenever behind the scenes, he's willing to learn and take things on. Of course he is. But I think it's important that your leader shows that they are believing in everything they say, everything they do, and they're going to drag you along for the ride, hopefully for the next 46 games.
Yeah. I think there was a certain view among the fan base, Chloe, that when Stuart departed, we would kind of have, in political parlance, the continuity candidate, a like-for-like replacement. We have a very definitive possession-based system, the way they operate, the way recruitment is made, and the head coach, the phrase we often see, is there to improve the players. What do you make of Martin? Because my first gut reaction, seeing him in action, seeing some of the games, I don't think he's a continuity candidate at all. I really don't. And I'm going to be very interested to see how this pans out.
Me too. I think when he was first announced, the initial feeling was apprehensive. But again, I think that goes without saying with a lot of Notts fans. I think there's a lot of us that kind of have always said we want somebody with the experience, someone that's been there, done that, in this league, ideally. And I think a lot of us knew that probably wasn't going to happen. So then to see him come in, obviously you kind of scrutinise his coaching and managerial career, which isn't extensive, not as a first team coach or a head coach. But obviously behind that, he's got his playing career followed by coaching roles in this country, over in America, I believe. So, yeah, I think it was apprehensive initially. But as we've kind of continued throughout the preseason, like I say, I've not been and I've not watched it myself other than Cardiff. But the more that I see him, the more that I hear from him, the more positive I am, to be honest, and the more optimistic I am to the start of the season. It's honesty that we haven't quite had so bluntly. Like Stall says, you saw glimpses of that in Luke Williams, and he was more on the side of brutal honesty than maybe Stuart Maynard was. But I think we really have gone the other way with Patterson, and he will say it how it is. I don't think he'll kind of call out individuals as such, and it'll be interesting to see how his post and pre-match interviews progress throughout the season. But I think it's the brutal honesty that Notts fans have wanted to see. I think we were all a little bit apprehensive going into the season, what with a new manager. I know, like somebody said in the comments there, in terms of not making any, I suppose, big name signings in the window so far. But like you say, as we've continued throughout the pre-season, even though the results haven't been there, there's been positive lights come out of every game. But yeah, and I think it's just refreshing to really hear how honest he is. And obviously we're all a little bit apprehensive after that. The comment came out from the owners when we did appoint him and how we were going to be running the club. I think a lot of us thought that was probably already happening somewhat. But to really put that clearly to the fans in the message that they did put out, I think, like I say, that buzzword about the club, about recruitment, about the manager has been apprehensive, but I'm slowly, well, not even coming round to it, actually coming out of it really positively. Like I say, I thought we put in a great performance on Saturday. And I think the biggest thing is really getting stuck into tackles, challenges. Obviously, we had one red card last season. It ended up being the second to last game of the season in the playoffs, and that ended up with a 5 or 6 match ban. But considering that was our only red card of the season, kind of shows you what sort of team we were last year. I really don't think we'll get bullied this year. I think that is one thing. Hopefully, Meadow Lane will become a bit of a steady place for us again. Obviously, our performance and our results dropped off at Meadow Lane last season, and it was our away form that kept us afloat. So I think, there'll be a lot of changes this season. Like I say, with the recruitment as well. We've bought kind of bigger, stockier players. We were overshadowed, especially across the pitch, really, last season in terms of height. We weren't really a threat from corners or free kicks or any set pieces. But it looks this season we'll be putting bodies about. We look fitter. I think that's the other thing. Patterson came in at the start of the season and said they're not fit enough, and I'll get them fit. And I think you can really see that. And I think it'll be a big difference, not even going into the start of the season, carrying us throughout. I think some important changes have already been implemented, and I'm really excited for the season.
In an ideal world, says ZO, I'd like a number 9, number 10, and a left back. The Trialist Bennett's, for me, wasn't fully fit and would need time to be match fit. Gordon on the left, however, doesn't offer as much in the final third. Andy Adcock, I like our newfound physicality, though I think we need to show better judgment in order to keep a full complement on the pitch every week. That's a very good point, Andy. Evening from Scott Taylor, ZO adds, Iapenda looks a good addition. Some height and physicality in the middle, which was lacking last year. Jarvis seems out of favour, ? Says Senga Schmidt. Not seen too much of him in pre-season so far and wasn't starting on Saturday. And you would imagine that 9 or 10 of those 11 would be in the starting 11 at Newport on Saturday, injuries permitting. ZO, interesting watching the coaching comms on Saturday. Assisted in the Howard Wilkinson position, top of the stand. That's a long time ago, yeah. Slocum with the earpiece, getting the messages and briefing Martin. Martin trying not to combust. Paul Cuthbert, Jarvis didn't even get on at all against Cardiff. Disappointing, because I believe he has a cutting edge and skill to go with it. Can do the unexpected. Martin's intensity, says Chris B, is a much needed change. But if that's all he has, I worry it will end up becoming a possible negative. Ian Cooksey, Luke Williams wasn't frightened to launch into his players, but they all seem to respect him. If this bloke can get the same, we might well be on to something. Martin Patterson is more like Luke Williams with a few extra buttons, says Richard Elvian. Derek Flowers, evening Derek. What a nice change Saturday, seeing football being played in the opposition half of the pitch and not ours for most of the match. I think possession with purpose was a phrase that Martin used in his interview with Stell and myself last week. ZO, and I tend not to disagree with this, there's no way we will only have one red card this season. That could be an issue as the season unfolds. A couple of League Two prediction podcasts, says JC, have us outside the playoffs based on current ins and outs. A couple of quality signings could put us well in the mix. Right, we're up to speed. Send us some more messages. I've got those read out. Stel, here's an interesting one for you. We've lost, I think, by common consensus, some of the real quality end of our squad. So I think most people would say Bass would be one of the top 2 or 3 keepers in the division. He's been sold. David McGoldrick didn't accept the offer of a new contract. Quality player, arguably one of the best 2 or 3 players in League Two last season. He's now at Barnsley. Dan Crowley left. Some wanted him out the door in January. 2 months later, we never replaced him. We didn't have his quality. And I suppose if you go back to Macaulay Langstaff leaving at the start of last season 12 months ago, for me, I don't think we have as strong a squad right now if you compared it with the start of last season. I think there's quality elements that are missing. But football's about a team. Football's a team game with the sum of the parts. And it does appear to me that Martin's trying to mould everyone to be fitter, stronger, change the style a little bit. With what Martin's got at the minute, do you think that can trump what we had in terms of some of the quality last season? Because don't forget, we made the playoffs last season.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the honest answer, Paul, is that none of us know because of the unknown factor of the players that have come in. We don't know enough about them to say, oh, Openda is a perfect replacement for George Abbott. In fact, he's better. We don't know that. You know, whoever Matty Dennis coming in, is that a replacement for David McGoldrick? We don't know, you know. So what is unquestionable is that there is a lot of quality gone out of this team over the last 12 months. You know, that the players that you've mentioned, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt, are big players at League Two level and are a loss. Only time will tell, and only performance levels will tell whether what has been brought in can match up or improve. Like I say, the squad, and you're absolutely right. It's not about the individual for individual. You know, David McGoldrick will be better than most players that come in, but it's about the effectiveness within the team and within the squad. What can they perform for us? Are they available? Are they fit every week? Can they play 46 games or as close to for us this season? You know, it's an unknown quantity. We can only speculate. So it's absolute pure speculation to sit here and go, do you know what? I think we're better than last season. I think we're worse than this time last season. We just don't know. We'll be able to give you a more informed, or we'll be able to give a more informed opinion in 5 or 6 games' time and go, oh, we're lacking. But like I say, I think I, like everybody else, have got that bit of uncertainty because of the quality that's gone out and the maybe unknown factor of most of the players that have come in. Now, 1 or 2 have got a good track record on them. Ollie Norburn, particularly, you know, is the standout with experience, playing at a good quality level. Kelleroos obviously has played at a higher level. But the rest, you know, you sort of look at them and go, well, we will wait and see. You know, Barry Cotter's played at a higher level as well, and we saw a bit of quality from him obviously at the weekend with his goal and play like that. So we will know in a few weeks' time, or we'll have a better idea in a few weeks' time. Other than that, it's just pure speculation to sit here and go, we're miles worse, we need this. But what I would say is I do think we need a couple more players. And I feel like, say, having spoken and with Martin last week and heard what he had to say and heard the rhetoric coming from him for a couple of 3 weeks now through pre-season, I think he thinks we need some more players in as well and more strength in the squad, and certainly in key areas as well, because again, it's not easy. It's not easy to put the ball in the back of the net, particularly. And I think, like I say, we were solid last season. That's one thing I think we weren't too worried about. Again, it's that fear factor of losing McGoldrick, losing Crowley, that who's going to put the ball in the back of the net, who's going to create, and who's going to put the ball in the back of the net enough times for us this season to turn us from a team that finished 6th, that got in the playoffs, but were comfortably beaten really by Wimbledon over 2 legs, to a team that is really up there looking for automatic, maybe looking to win the league and pushing whoever else we think are going to be promotion candidates right over 46 games. At the minute, I, like most Notts fans, sit here without any sort of certainty saying, yeah, we'll be one of them teams. Certainly hope we will be. And we've got the basis of it. He's not coming into a team that was battling relegation or fortunately stayed in the league. He's got the nucleus of a strong, reliable outfit. Now he's got to try and nurture that. And as he said himself, he's got to try and improve the players over the course of this season to get us to where we want to get to. But it's not going to be easy. And I think we do need more additions.
Yeah, the number 9 shirt conundrum. Yes, it's been pointed out to me by several of the flock. Quite right. Kedwin Scott had that. He was the last person to wear the 9. Ian Cooksey says, interesting to see George Abbott sign a new long-term contract at Spurs yesterday. Kind of tells you what we're up against when we try to replace him. I think that is probably also a precursor, Ian, to Spurs loaning him out to a club higher up in the pyramid. Normally what you do is you get the player on a better contract to protect any transfer value prior to putting them out on a loan. So I would imagine George will be going out on loan, top end League One, maybe Championship, now that he's signed and agreed that new contract at Tottenham. Who will fill the number 9 shirt, says Richard Elvian. It's a $64,000 question at the minute, isn't it? Colin Metcalf, I'm hoping with the new setup It will give us better in-game adjustments. I feel our inability to change things cost us last season. Our squad currently sits at 26 players. Too many, says Richard Elvian. I certainly think that there will be some departures. I would imagine several players may well go out on loan as well. We lacked creativity towards the end of last season, and we did slightly on Saturday, says Joe. We definitely need more quality in the squad. Ian Haywood, we need more players because a lot will be missing games with red cards by the sound of it. Up front, other than Jatta, says Zedo, no one has any history of regular goal scoring. Will AJ be with us at the end of August, or will his agent get his paycheck? Ian Cooksey, Paul, you are right. Allegedly going to Leyton Orient. I think he's talking there about George Abbott and a loan move. Yeah, okay. Chloe, are you expecting to see change in style this year or not? Or are we going to play exactly the same?
I think it's going to be very similar, considering the statement that the owners put out. We played a similar style on Saturday. That's all I can go off. Inverted wing backs we did play, although I don't know whether he does favour that. Again, it'll be interesting to see if he'll play Jody as the 10, purely because he might think he's one of the only players we've potentially got to play the 10. I would prefer to probably see him on the wing. However, I do think he can do a job as a 10. I also think that depends if we do bring another striker in. So it's an interesting one. I think Dennis, I liked Dennis, but whether he can play up front on his own and get enough goals, I'm not sure. Obviously, that then brings the whole conversation with Jatta in as of now, and hopefully as of the start of the season, unless something drastically changes this week. He's a Notts County player, but obviously he will be out for the first 5 games, which will be a big loss. If Barry Cotter can put a few in like he did on Saturday, we might be all right. But yeah, it's an interesting one, but I do think for the most part we'll play a very similar formation, a very similar style of football. But like everybody said, we do look like we have a bit more purpose now when we do have the ball. I think you'll see hopefully some better set pieces, like I said, with the more physicality and the taller players in the mix now. Some more long throws. I think you just see a little bit of more direct football this season than we did last season. Possession wise, I do still think we'll have a lot of the ball. You might see that percentage drop a little bit purely because he doesn't like us to just kind of pass it between the back 3 or the back 5. And I'm not so sure that the goalkeeper's great with his feet. Again, I've seen him for the however long he played. He didn't even play the full 90. So that'll be an interesting one if he doesn't trust the goalkeeper to play out from the back. We'll see how we go. I don't think we've ever really been proficient with playing out from the back, even when we had Bass, and I was a big Bass fan. But yeah, I think that'll be an interesting start, and see which goalkeeper he kind of starts. I assume it'll be Calarus, but we'll see, because apart from the mishap on Saturday, it sounds like he's a big fan of the goalkeeper that we've got from Forest. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think for the most part, you'll see a very similar style. But yeah, hopefully with a little bit more intent, really. And then I think, like I say, the one that's up for the most debate is the number 9 shirt and the formation that we play, whether we'll play Dennis and Jatta, or whether it'll just be one of the two. It'll be interesting. But like Sal says, we're not going to know it's that magic number 5 to 10 games when everybody's up to speed. I think the one that I look back at last season, I think Tranmere was the first game of the season, and it very much gave first game of the season. Tackles weren't going in flying. Everybody looked a bit not fit just yet. But it'll be interesting with the preseason we've had with the new manager, what Newport is like. But essentially everybody is a bit foot off the gas a little bit in that first game, and you kind of see everybody settle within that first 5 to 10 games. But yeah, it'll be interesting, and I do hope we've got another another couple coming in, which I'm sure I will give the recruitment team and the manager, well, head coach, should I say, them positive headaches that we want. We want competition for place. But yeah, I imagine that the team that we started with on Saturdays, like we say, pretty much going to be the starting 11 there or thereabouts. But yeah, I think it's interesting. People bringing up in the comments as well, Jarvis, I thought he was a bright spark at the end of last season, but I think there was a few question marks in terms of work rate that have come from him being at different clubs prior to us. So whether that's come out now or whether he's got a knock, it'll be interesting to see, because I was a big fan of him at the end of last season. So I do hope that he is somebody that we are going to see as the season starts. But yeah, it's just them positive headaches are what you want in terms of starting 11s and substitutions, and really who's going to fill out the bench. So we need players this season. I think this was the issue last season, especially with injury, is who is going to come off the bench and be your match winner. And I think there's still a few question marks there. But hopefully we have got a bit more depth this season to take us through.
You alluded on several occasions, Stell, last season, about one of the worst criticisms that could be levelled at any football team: too nice. And there was always a question mark, I guess, polarised by the 2 playoff games against Wimbledon as to where we were, on that sliding scale of being over the top or too nice. I'll give you one prediction: we won't be too nice this season.
Well, I hope not. Yeah, I certainly hope not, and I'm sure Martin Patton will hope not, and all the players will hope not as well. Nobody sets out with the intention of being a nice team to play against. But sometimes, with the players that you have on the pitch, with their natural abilities and things they do naturally, as opposed to the other side of the game where you have to maybe do something that isn't natural to you, you can create a team that is a little bit nice, particularly in the modern game with possession-based teams, because there is a massive transition between having the ball where you've got to be relaxed, switched on, accepting of the ball, comfortable, you've got to have a soft touch, feather touch with the ball, pass it, caress it to your teammates, play it with pace if need be, put it in front of them. But you've got to have that artistry when you're in possession of the ball. And then you lose possession and bang, you've got to change. And then you've got to be ratting around, sticking a foot in if need be, going to ground, getting physical, getting close, manhandling your opponent if necessary. And that is a split-second change. And that isn't automatic in every single player. It just isn't. So at times, by being nice, it doesn't mean to say that there's, players are deliberately doing it, but it's just like I say, split-second decisions in game and things that you do and how the way you react to things happening within a match. Have you got that ruthlessness, that nasty streak, whatever it can be, whilst also maintaining composure when you're in possession of the ball? Because the ball can be turned over, like I say, at any split second. So, I didn't think we were too nice last season, not very often anyway, but to have an extra bit of steel, a bit of grit, that's great. But what you don't want to do is cross the lines, and we don't want to be talking about having 6 or 7 red cards this season that could affect us in games, could cost us points. But you want to see that balance between, players getting stuck in, being horrible to players. You want teams to leave every game playing against Notts County going, Christ, I know I was in a game against them. They are horrible to play against. And you also want them saying, but I tell you what, when they've got the ball, they are quality and they hurt you. And they hurt you in both ways. So it's a fine line. It's a difficult balancing act in football. Like I say, it's not black and white in any way, shape or form. The game has got nuances, and different strengths, and different players have got different strengths. And it's trying to find that collective grit and nastiness, if you like, without it crossing a line. And like I say, sometimes it will cross a line. As Chloe said, we waited till the playoff game for Jatta to get the first red card of the season. We've equalled that already in pre-season, haven't we, with a red card? So, the signs are that we are a little bit more ruthless, but we don't want red cards. But what we do want to see is, hey, lads getting stuck in, lads giving everything, and like I say, making it difficult for the opposition.
Essie Kent says, can we mention Conor Grant's performance on Saturday? In my opinion, outstanding. Luke Bott, he's not very happy. Relegation this season, sorry to say, not enough new signings. Don't need that negativity here, Joe, says Joe. We're storming the league. As you can see, there's quite a polarised view of where we are and the minute. Jurgen Halligan, Newport and Accrington to go down. Grant was my MOM on Saturday. Chloe, you've alluded to this a little bit earlier. Jody playing in a 10 role, which seems to have gathered quite a lot of momentum. We look back 2 seasons and he was player of the year in League Two as wing-back, operating on the left for the predominant part, all the assists, chipping in with goals. My gut feel is that if you like, he may be asked to do that McGoldrick type role because we haven't got anyone else to do it, but that comes at a cost of his operating down either flank.
Absolutely. I think he's certainly got the talent to play a 10, but a bit like you, I'm wondering whether that's because he is the option at the minute, whether we're kind of looking at somebody else to come in the meantime, and we're just kind of seeing if Jody can play that 10. I'm all for playing him on his preferred side as a winger. He can play wing back. I just want to see him kind of predominantly up the field, whipping crosses in, cutting inside. It's what he does best. He was probably the best winger in the league a couple of seasons ago, and unlucky with injuries since. Played inverted wing back a few times. I'm not so keen, but he can still do a job. But I'd prefer to see him out on the wing. However, I've not seen him play a 10 enough to make a comment, to be honest. So it will be interesting because I do think that's one of the positions where we are a bit lighter. But again, that might change when we do have Jatta back and we play 2 up front. So it's going to be interesting. I think there'll be a little bit of chopping and changing within the first 5 to 10 games, especially when we get injuries back. We get Jatta back, hopefully, and a couple of new additions. But like I say, I'm all for playing Jody in the role he's meant to play as a winger. We'll see. I don't think it's a bad thing to have him be able to play a multitude of different positions as potentially going to be our standout player of the season. But yeah, it's always nice to have. It's always nice to have players that you can trust in different positions, especially when you do pick up red cards and injuries. But predominantly, I'd like to see him play on the wing.
Alessandro Jatta, Stel. So he's missed the German pre-season, a large lump of pre-season, but scored against Port Vale behind closed doors friendly, scored within 3 or 4 minutes of coming on against Cardiff. Any way the club can afford, well, of course they can sell him, but any way you think the club couldn't sanction selling him, or as it stands for you, is he an absolute must-starter, and the quicker we can get him in after these 5 games, the better?
At the minute, there's absolutely no way they can sell him because there's nobody that can replace him at the minute. And again, somebody might step up, and Martin Patterson said this himself, didn't he, in the interview? Him missing the first 5 games is a chance for somebody. Yeah. Whoever plays up front, be it Matty Dennis, be it whoever, there is a chance. You're going to get the starting shirt. You're going to get potentially 5 games. Now, he might chop and change. It might not be one player gets 5 games. It might be 1 or 2 get tried in that spell. But you have got a chance to keep the shirt. But as we sit here now, nobody, and I'm thinking my Traore, if he's fit or if he's available, he's not scored a goal. Matty Dennis, although scored goals for Carlisle last season, hasn't scored during pre-season, so he's not exactly, shown that he's the man to replace the goals. Nobody has. No, during pre-season, we've not scored loads of goals. Jatta's got a couple against Port Vale and one the other day when he came on against Cardiff to show he's still the main man in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. So unless we bring in, like I say, I think we need to bring in one more forward anyway. But if they're thinking of getting a bid that would be acceptable to them, then I think we need two strikers, and one of them would need to maybe cost a transfer fee, because you're wanting somebody to guarantee goals. Because if Jatta goes, and I'm saying no, he shouldn't do, you've got nobody at the club who is a proven League Two goal scorer. So, I think it's an absolute non-starter as we stand here at the minute. But again, everybody's got their value. And it depends what else is available in the market. There are irons in the fire. They'll be speaking to players and agents and have deals pending in terms of, trying to get the financials sorted. But if they were, and I would imagine it's a million miles away, but if they were to sanction Jatta going, then you could bet your bottom dollar they're going to have an oven-ready replacement, Paul, to use your phrase. Somebody that can come in and be trusted, because to go into the season without anybody who's really a proven League Two goal scorer would be an unbelievable gamble. Not that it wouldn't pay off, but it would be an unbelievable risk, and I don't think it's a risk that we need to take.
At the other end of the pitch, you've seen him play a bit at Derby. Calaruz, what do you make of him?
Well, obviously played at high level and was I think he was preferred to Scott Carson, I think, when they played Leeds in the playoffs a few years back. I might be wrong on that. But yeah, obviously a decent goalkeeper. I must admit, he's one of the modern keepers. He parries quite a bit, so that could take a bit of getting used to. But look, with his experience, you'd like to think he can come in. Again, distribution might not be as good as Alex Bass, but again, you're talking about a different goalkeeper, different player. But I think his experience will be vital. He's a good shot stopper, certainly. And I think he might help. He's got a fairly solid defence in front of him. And with Martin Patterson, say this possession with purpose, like I say, and people have said during pre-season, we've not looked to play too many passes, meaningless passes at the back. The ball will be going forward. So I don't think there'll be quite the same expectation on him to have the ball at his feet and play out. Again, we saw, Harry Griffiths, unfortunately, make an error with his distribution. First error he's made, obviously, but make a distribution playing out from the back. And you're going, I think they're the sort of things that maybe Martin is going to want to eradicate. You never want to give teams soft goals. Make them work for it, yeah, fine. If they beat you with a bit of quality, absolutely. But it infuriates everybody in football, coaches, everybody, to give teams soft goals, because, like I say, it's hard enough to score a goal as it is. You don't want to give teams a head start. So Calaruz is a good goalkeeper. He's certainly capable of being a top goalkeeper at this level, and I certainly hope he comes in, finds his form, finds his confidence, and plays a part in being a really solid Notts back line this season.
Martin Shipley, I'm with you, Chloe, on Jody. But then again, I live in perennial hope that we'll play 4-4-2. One of the constants of pre-season so far has been a 3 at the back, Martin, as I'm sure you are aware. Rosemary Mann says, I think they may play Jody differently to protect him from injury. He will still be able to perform as a number 10 and in other roles. Dale Pikett, Jatta is the only natural goal scorer we have at this football club. Joe says, get Les Brad up top. He's the replacement. I think Les is about 75 now, but anyway, he's had a couple of knees done, a hip. I'm sure he'd answer the call if it was made. AD Clark, I expect Martin Patterson to use his knowledge and experience to improve the strikers. He looks like he'll be a master of the dark arts. It'll be interesting to see how things develop. Terence Woolhouse, we definitely need a proven goal scorer. Wayne Wilkins, sell Jatta by Cheek. That's Michael Cheek from Bromley. Greza Maxwell, your point. They won't let Jatta go without an oven-ready replacement. Pythagoras, I thought Max Boruk did well in Germany. Surprised he wasn't signed. Most of the respectable podcasts, says Dale Pikett, have Notts 13th to 18th. Do they really? And it's not just the signings. They put it down to the new manager we have. Rosemary Mansad. I thought we played very well against Cardiff. Last season, we were bullied and we got to the 77th minute and no subs brought on to defuse that situation. No plan B, plus we weren't as fit. Certainly don't think fitness will be an issue. Right, let's come up with our promotion automatics playoff predictions. I'll give you and bottom two. I'm coming to you in a minute, Chloe, if you've not already worked them out. So my top three, as Stell said, I've not necessarily, deviated too much here. So I've got MK Dons up as champions. Reason for that, they've spent a shed load. Big admirer of Paul Warne. And I think he will get them playing this year. I think he will get them playing. Runners up. I know this won't go down very well. Chesterfield. I think Paul Cook quietly assembling a decent team there. And in third, I've gone Salford, given David Beckham seems to have persuaded a few international investors to stump up a load of cash for a club that will average about 1,400. But anyway, that's the way of the world. Playoffs, I've gone Shrewsbury, Swindon, Gillingham, all with fairly seasoned managers, you all know, and Notts in my top seven. And to go down, I've gone with Harrogate and Accrington. Send yours in now. Chloe, what you gone for?
It's hard to not go similar, isn't it? You look at the money it's hard. And like you say, you've got MK, Bristol Rovers, Salford as well, like you say. There will always be somebody that creeps into that third spot that you're not expecting. So I think it's hard, isn't it? But like you say, it's easy to go with the big spenders, but it doesn't always turn out well. Obviously, MK kind of
Carlisle last year.
Further down. But yeah, I think after that, a couple of ones that maybe we haven't said so far, just to nick a playoff, potentially Grimsby, potentially Crewe. I think teams that have been in the league quite a while can kind of pick up some form, especially going into the second half of the season. Like you say, Chesterfield, I think there'll be a lot of steady teams this season. I don't think you'll see so many random results. I think you'll see a lot more draws, a lot more 1-0 wins here and there. But again, I do think it'll be tight down to probably halfway to nick them playoff positions. But yeah, I think you've got to look at managers that have come in, been there, done that, the big spenders, and then a couple of teams that have been there, done that, been in and around the league for a while and can quietly creep in.
That's a master's in fence sitting, Chloe. Master's degree. Jurgen Halligan, Chesterfield, MK Dons and Swindon, automatics. Old Bob, top three, MK, Swindon, Bristol Rovers, relegated, Accrington and Cheltenham, Notts playoffs again. Gaza Lee, MK, Swindon and Salford as the top three. Jurgen Halligan, he's added his playoffs, Notts, Salford, Bristol Rovers and Colchester. Top three, Shane Walker, MK Dons, Swindon and Notts. Pythagorean, MK Dons, Chesterfield, Bristol Rovers, and to go down, Accrington and Cheltenham. MK Notts and Chesterfield, says Ian Hayward. Duncan Comrie, Autos, MK, Chesterfield and Notts. Playoffs, Gillingham, Crewe, Grimsby, Salford, and down Accrington and Newport. Elvis Bott, Fleetwood could be a surprise side with Ched Evans signing for them. Richard Terry is an optimist. Notts go up as champions, MK Dons and Chesterfield. Playoffs, Swindon, Walsall, Salford, and Bristol. Joe, personally, I think it's hard to predict the league. There's so many good sides in the division. It's anyone's for the taking. Stel, what are your thoughts? MK Dons are clearly going to be mentioned by just about everyone. They've spent a shed load. Does that bring with it, additional challenges for Paul Warne? Or would all the other 23 managers say, I wish we'd had the money to spend that Paul Warne's had?
Yeah, well, a bit of both. Yeah, every manager would wish they had the same budget. Of course, they would. I'm sure Martin is very jealous of the budget they've spent on players, but of course that comes with pressure. The MK Dons were spoken about last season, weren't they? And look where they finished. They spent money in the last sort of summer, and the expectation was that they were going to be really, really strong. Like I say, money and big contracts and big wages can be a hindrance. Like I've said on many occasions, there are egos in dressing rooms, and when money starts getting inflated and the disparity between top earners and lesser earners becomes bigger, the squad becomes inflated, that can create its problems behind the scenes, which manifest itself or can manifest itself with disruption on the pitch. Look at Carlisle last season, MK Dons last season. But I do think they've got a decent manager in there, really good manager, Paul Warne, good man, a good manager. So, I wouldn't back against him sorting it out. But League Two is notoriously difficult to predict. Chloe's right. There's always a team that nobody sort of sees. You look at the betting, the bookies are not always too far wrong. But I think League Two is the one where there's more curveballs in it. There's more unknown, factors in that level because of the quality of player or the inconsistencies of the quality of player that teams are signing, and unknown factors, young players, maybe loan signings. The loan market has a big effect on League Two. Think of, oh God, his name's just escaped, the lad at Walsall who scored all the goals before Christmas on loan from Stoke. Nathan Lowe, wasn't it? Yeah. Think of that. So that can impact the division. Loan signings who nobody's heard of, nobody knows. So there's a lot of unknown teams. So unlike you, Paul, who's gone for the top three favourites in the bookies betting list, I would look. You won't look too far away from them sort of teams that got mentioned. But I think there will be a dark horse. I wonder about Bristol Rovers, maybe. Not that they're going to be too much of a dark horse. Swindon seem to have bought well. And Walsall again. You just never know. Again, use of loan market, but you just don't know. Honestly, all these people who quote in podcasts like this one where people are making predictions, we know nothing. So I'm assuming the other podcast hosts know more than we do. But like I say, it is pure guesswork at this stage of the season. But quite like Salford. If I was going to stick my neck on one team, I quite like Salford. The moves and the noises that have come out of them this season. If I was going to go away from the obvious MK Dons.
Yeah. Scott Taylor says Colchester, the Cowleys, will be the dark horse, in my opinion. Notts have a lot of work to do, says ZO. Suspect loan signings may be in our game plan. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Duncan Comrie's not part of the Paul Warne fan club. Warne sacked by Christmas. You heard it here first. That's not very magnanimous, Duncan. Robert Minister from Australia. MK Dons, Chesterfield and Bristol Rovers, Salford, Swindon, Notts, Gillingham playoffs, Accrington and Harrogate to go down. And Richard Terry, I forgot about Oldham. Dark horses, he says. And I think that's about it on the predictions there. I wouldn't write off Ian Holloway Swindon at all, says Greza Maxwell. Yeah, it's largely down to him that I've got him in that kind of like top 7 shake-up. Now then, the winner of the away shirt, courtesy of one of our partners, JH Accountants, drew that out a little bit earlier while we're on air. It is Craig Ashley. Okay, so Craig, drop us a line. We'll be dropping you a line. Congratulations, Craig. Get in touch. Let us know what size away shirt you want, and we will get that sorted for you. And also at this moment in time, having done an away shirt, JH Accountants have raided their piggy bank and are offering a home shirt as well. Details of how to enter that competition will post later this week. You will be in Newport, Stell?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can't wait for the normal season to start again. Proper footballs, proper Saturdays again. Yeah,
Yes.
looking forward to it. And again, we've not really mentioned, but it's a big game, isn't it? You know, really, first game, Martin Patterson, new manager, new coaching system, new structure at the club, a little bit of uncertainty. Maybe we're going to this season with lower expectations. Now, hopefully, that'll be a good thing. Might take a little bit of pressure off, but it's a game that they will be expected to win, won't they? I think Newport are favourites for relegation. So new manager down there as well, a few new players. But yeah, big game. First game of the season, always tricky, always tough. Teams are well organised. So hopefully we can go down there and start the season well with 3 points.
And Scott Taylor asks, who's going to be with you on Saturday, Stal? Do we know yet?
Yeah, it's going to be Adam on Saturday, and I don't know if I'm breaking any confidences. I think Adam's going to be announced to do all season this season with me. So he is now going to be the new the full-time Notts commentator for the season. I think Dave's going over to do Mansfield. So I think there's been a bit of a reshuffle, but I don't know if I'm breaking any confidences in that.
Yeah, Jake's got a new role, and presumably Dave's on a bit of cricketing duty for the time being. Anyway,
of course, yeah. I mean, yeah, cricket always takes precedence. Dave, he's done that for about 158 years, so he's not going to stop now. But yeah, I think that's the way it's going to be. Adam doing all the Notts games this season alongside myself and anybody decent if they can get them.
Very good. Chloe, you'll be down at Rodney Parade or whatever its sponsorship calls it now, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Ready for the 3+ hour drive to kick us off at the start of the season.
Yeah. Off with your granddad, Trevor?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be there. I think we're setting off about 10 o'clock just to make sure. But yeah, it's probably not the one I would have picked to go to at the start of the season, but you can't choose them all.
No, I don't mind going to Wales because now as an over 60 but under 65 in Wales, well, certainly at Newport, you get a discounted ticket when you're over 60. Marvellous. So I'm actually paying £5 less to go and watch a game of football involving Notts County for the first time ever compared to my son. Obviously, Harry's 28 now, so he has to pay the full whack. I get a £5 reduction. There you go, isn't that good? And also, I'm going down on Friday. On the basis I have no idea what I could possibly do in Newport Town Centre on a Friday evening. I was toying with the idea of doing a bit of a Friday night live, half an hour, 7 o'clock, 7:30. Anyone that wants to dial in, send me some messages and we can just have a bit of a chat if there's sufficient interest. And that will at least while away half an hour for me Friday night in Newport. I'm not sure it gets much better with the next away game in the league. It's Barrow away, isn't it? So we're getting in some interesting visits early in the season. Thank you one and all, as always. Thank you to the Big Shed at Trent Navigation and to JH Accountants for their continued sponsorship this season. It is very, very much appreciated. Lots more things in the pipeline. Hope you've been enjoying the vlogs. We'll be doing a vlog from Newport. Chloe, thank you very much indeed tonight. Stell, thank you very much indeed. Good night from me.
Yep, good night from me.
And me as well.
Yeah, indeed. We will see. We'll all be there at Newport on Saturday. Look forward to seeing you all. Thanks again for your participation this evening. I'll probably do a little Friday night show. Keep tuned. Congratulations to Craig Ashley, who's won the shirt, and watch out for the competition entry details to win a home shirt. Cheers for now. Good night.
Cheers.